but let's get started on today's class. So a couple of announcements. First one, it's not really an announcement. For anyone who's curious on how to get their work on my videos, go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here. It'll take you to our Reddit. And from there, you'll be able to join and post your work. As you can see, everyone's posting their stuff, and that's where I get stuff to critique. Really cool seeing redraws. I think those are really cool. But yeah, feel free to post your 3D art, your sketches, as long as they're posted in bulk. Not like a single rough sketch at a time. It's going to flood the wall. Everything from form studies to illustrations, anything you feel like jumping into, don't do it alone. There's no reason to do it alone. If there's a whole community here doing it with you, working with you, there's no reason it should be a single journey. It can be very, very community driven journey, and it can be a very populated journey. It doesn't have to be something that you endeavor alone. Challenge submissions are posted here as well. A really wonderful community. Everyone is very, very kind, and also, but it's not just kindness, well, they just compliment you, but they will also help you see where your issues are. So expect critique, but don't expect rude critique. And if you give out rude critique, I will know right away, and you will be permanently banned. No ifs, ands, or buts. Other announcements is Patreon. If you're interested in giving back, even in the smaller tiers, you can. The apprenticeship, it works in this way. I send out an assignment every single month and I critique it. Lately my health has been pretty bad, so it's been a bit delayed to upload the videos, but they all get critiqued. And the homework is varied. It's a world building type of homework, research driven. And rewards, as I make the art, I distribute rewards. Because I have been very ill, I have not been doing a lot of personal work. So for those who are looking for high reward driven, like other Patreon accounts, that's not my type of Patreon. It's as I make the art and I upload a video detailing the process I went through. As you guys have seen, I uploaded the ones from the past. And I give out every brush that I use during that process, and the assignments and PSDs. That's all collectively, and the critique hour specific for apprenticeships, that's all collectively uploaded for apprentices. But as you go down in the tiers, you get less of that bulk. We do run it through a private Discord, and I will be right back. I just need to cough and sneeze and all that. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's get started on today's class. I'll be taking a look at this piece. Oh, and if you did win the community challenge, you will be contacted soon. I am currently not booking students until after my surgery recovery period. I'm not being given any time period for recovery. They don't know what they're going to find, so that they can fix it, so that they can estimate exactly how much recovery time is needed. Most of it, I can sit down and I can do art, but it's just about painkillers and what you're going through in regards to that, and not being able to host classes, when you're drugged up. So I will most likely not start rewards or any kind of private tutoring until after that recovery period. This surgery came out of nowhere. I could not have predicted that I'd be doing a surgery in March, especially when I'm paying out of pocket for it. But yes, you will be contacted if you won in the challenge, the 2 winners. That's it. The other challenge brief will be posted soon. It will be the Alien Garden Landscape Challenge. I love gardens. Lately I've been obsessed with gardening, so I guess that's why all of my themes have been related to a garden in some way. I think I've assigned 3 or 4 different assignments that are related to a garden in some way, which is fun. You kind of have to keep your interests interconnected. Thank you so much, you guys. Yep, I'll be fine, I promise. A lot of people are like worried that I won't make it. It's a very, very simple surgery. And it's not something like open heart surgery or anything like that. The way I see it is 60-year-olds have open heart surgery and they survive. Just fine, perfectly fine. Medicine is very advanced. But this is a very simple thing, and I'm very sure I'm going to make it out. All right, so let's get started. I'm sorry about the coughing. Let me just raise my mic a little bit out of my face. Okay, so this piece has got a number of issues with it, and I'll lay them out, and I'll just apply the corrections, and it will kind of, you know, explain itself. You've got a vertical character design and a horizontal scene. It's really, really center heavy. There's not much storytelling. Like, you don't see the character crouching this way, kind of trying to make it through, you know, some kind of bush area, and then, you know, another character's out here somewhere in the distance, and, you know, there's some kind of plot or line of sight relating the two together. It's a horizontal canvas designed to distribute elements of the story within it with enough space to entertain either side of the stage. It's not a good idea ever to centralize a character in a very long horizontal canvas like this. It's just bad framing. It's deliberate, you know, to make it feel like the character is surrounded, but there are better ways to make the character feel like they're surrounded. Even the trees are super symmetrical. It kind of feels like an operatic stage or something like that. At the end of the day, it's just bad framing. Or I would say it's an accidental framing. I think that the student didn't know how to frame their character or deliver them. So I'm going to be doing a couple of adjustments. I will be cropping at the end because there's a lot of edits to make that a crop this early isn't going to benefit. We're not going to benefit from a crop this early. So I'm going to change the perspective. I'm going to go crazy. And I'm going to change the perspective of the trees. I'm going to make it so we're looking from the bottom up at the character. Again, we want to make the character feel like they're surrounded. So forget the character for a second. And now you're like, what? So just forget the character. You're in good hands. All right. I'm just getting rid of that. And as usual, I remember way too late, but I did not have my glasses on. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're trying to establish an environment scene. And it's not going to be cropped horizontally, by the way. It's going to be cropped vertically because it will, at the end of the day, be about the character. But I want to make it seem like we're being, you know, the trees are towering over us. I'm not even sure why I coughed. I'm coughing. I did not eat before class. I did not have anything spicy. I don't even know what's going on. I'm so sorry about the constant coughs. So I'm just amending this little area here, patching it up as roughly as, but you know, while it can still be a pass and still read as that tree line. Alright, and then I'm going to copy paste that whole thing, move it over, and try to get more of those trees towering over us in this way. And it's kind of like a fisheye. It's not a fisheye, it's a 3-point vanishing, so it means that the trees are all going to meet at one point here. That's usually what we do with extreme worm's eye or bird's eye view. It's a 3-point vanishing or a 3-point perspective. Might put these behind these, or actually no. I might make them just a little less visible. And I'm checking my navigator and they still don't feel like they're in the right spot. Because I want it to feel like this is really towering over our character here. But I have to think about our crop as well. So, the crop is going to be in this, oopsie, in this way. We're going to have that there. And then, I'll crop in a second. And then this section of the trees, let me merge down actually. This section of the trees should be moved in a little bit closer. And then I'll try to make some thinner trees as well. Really want to make them feel like they're towering over our buddy. And then of course there's the twigs and the branches and all that business. So what we do is we see all of it. So we see the ones in the back, we see the ones in the front, which you guys are used to drawing, but we also catch the ones in the back. All right, oops. Make sure that the perspective is still intact. So the top of the tree is much thinner than the bottom of the tree. The bottom is much thicker. And I'll decide on my crop in a second, and then fix the light environment. This tree is kind of fallen forward, and I guess that's okay. Alright, so as for the crop, I want something that's a little bit more vertical. Something like that. So the character, we really feel like the character is being enveloped by this environment. That's good, okay. And then I'm going to find the character. So the character's got a pretty bad placement as well. What's happening is that we are seeing them in a very level, it's just everything is too level for a character who's wandering in a forest so much bigger than them, and they seem scared because the eyebrows are pretty high. So I'm gonna try to mess with their perspective as well, so it just feels like a hobbit, you know, traveling and seeing every tree so much bigger than them, so much bigger than we're used to. I'm not saying it's a hobbit, but I'm saying that I want it to feel like a wanderer, you know, in a forest. Is what I'm feeling off of this, like a Frodo in the woods. You know, I'd like to make an observation. Lord of the Rings is such mature storytelling. We're so used to a protagonist that is all capable of everything, but in the Lord of the Rings, you've got this character that is wholly dependent on their fellowship, and the fact that it's called the Fellowship, you know, it's such a mature way to write, and it's so ahead of its time for something that originated nearly every fantasy story we've ever heard. You know, every great classic that you think is a classic, World of Warcraft or whatever it is, was inspired by this cool fantasy class system. So not only is it like original in the way we understand fantasy, but it's so unique in the way that Tolkien did that. You know, the way he did this mature way to tell a story about a character who's got the world on his shoulders, but still very reliant on his friends. Anyways, so I'm going to, oopsie, just do that. I'm not sure why it did this. Oh, it's probably because of, there we go. Stupid layer order. Son of a, I don't know what's going on. I think it's our little buddy here. He's got a skirt. All right, so moving on. We are going to adjust him now. But before I do that, I'm going to merge all of this stuff down, and I'm going to try to, actually, let me turn it off, and then filter, liquefy. Now I'm going to really go crazy with his features. So I'm going to make it so that he's looking, or she is looking up at something happening in the foreground where we can't see. So I'm completely changing the perspective, and the way to do that is to just change the horizontal lines on which all the features sit. So now we have these curves here. And the eyebrows are further from the eyes because we're now seeing the space in between them, the inner socket. And the reason why I'm so tempted to is because the ears are so low that the biggest signature for a downward perspective is low ears. And so it kind of, you know, it's kind of a chance to, if it was an animated league splash or something, the ears would kind of be twitching, listening to something nearby. So I'm doing something like that, and we're seeing the top of their crown in this way, which is very, very low perspective. It feels very low perspective. I will have to make some slight adjustments because it looks very masculine, this face, and it's for one big reason. You've got a very strong Cupid's bow and a very thin upper lip, but the perspective shift is still there. So before, after. And so I'm gonna get rid of that strong Cupid's bow, and I'm gonna carry that mouth all the way upward so it looks a little less masculine. And maybe make the mouth smaller since it's some kind of little forest creature. It's not lost in the woods, but maybe they're part of the woods, but the woods are still something to respect and revere, something still to be worried about. And I don't want it to be a worried eyebrow. I want it to be a little bit of wonderment. Is that a good word? Mixed in there. And that would be by raising the eyebrows up and away from the eyes. So perspective is not a very scary thing, and that's what today's class has come about. It's just about trusting the distortion and doing enough of a distortion. You're scared of perspective not because you're it's difficult. You're scared of perspective because of how much it requires you to change this to this. That's it. This is what's scaring you. You've never really misdrawn intentionally an object to infer perspective. So like it's freaking you out because someone is making you intentionally distort. So it's called the perspective distortion. And you guys are too scared to do it. Not because it's hard. It's very easy. Draw a triangle. Literally draw a triangle. It'll help you decide. The head should fit here and the legs are here. Now we have a character in perspective looking down on us, filthy humans, right? So it's just a literally that's it, just the triangle. We're done. If you're on a mountain and you're looking down, or if you're on a pole looking down, you know, so your head is here, your shoulders are there, the feet are there, the torso is the stomach is hiding the torso, whatever. That's it. It's just an upside down triangle. It's not that it's hard. It's very easy. I just did it in front of you. It's that you're a coward and you're too scared to distort intentionally your image. And that is what I learned. And eventually I realized, man, I really want to, for the sake of stories, just start messing around with some better perspective. But I was scared. I was like, I'm gonna intentionally mess my drawing up. Why would I do that? Why would I intentionally do that? Yeah, because you have to. That's the point. That's how you do it. And I was just too afraid of it. So I'm gonna change the character's stance a little bit as well, the way they're standing and what they're doing, so that we're seeing more of a haunch forward, as if they're kind of crouched, assessing the landscape. Maybe they're being pursued. Maybe they're pursuing. But I just want to make it seem like, I know it's going to be really weird, but I'm just going to try to make it seem like the character is a little bit more. I want to get rid of the arm on the upper part and connect the tops together. Should have done that. Okay, and then I disconnect the upper torso as well. So they're kind of just, their neck is really elongated and the breast should be completely relocated there because they're crouching forward, assessing, ears twitching, looking at something nearby that you know, that we don't see as the viewer, but we see them assessing it. And then I just really want to, I think that's good right there. And I really want to mess with that little shoulder pad, so it's kind of in front of them, shoulder thingy. It's kind of like in front of them, peeking out, kind of covering one of the set of the ears, because it's, again, part of the perspective that we are not too scared to do right now. So we're doing it together, and we're learning, and it's good. I don't know if I want to do that, because now that I checked the navigator is telling me it's off. All right. We shall see. So we have this vertical landscape. I'm going to stretch out the trees, not that way. I'm going to stretch out the trees so it's bigger than the character, and then finally we can start talking about the rest, which is light environment, color balance, all that good shit. And maybe enlarging the character a touch. Oops. All right, the arm. Literally this arm, I'm not even sure what you were doing with it. It's just going nowhere. It's doing nothing. That's not what I want to do. I'm just trying to find shortcuts. All right. Flip horizontal, fine. Nope, flip horizontal again. It's just, I just don't want to do too much editing because I'm already like exhausted from all the lassoing and the liquefy, so I just wanted to do something simple with that arm. It's not working with me. All right, you know what? Okie dokie. So I'm gonna patch up the trees one more time. We have a vertical canvas, and now we're gonna bring in the environment values, which is the fog value that you can see here in front of you. The atmospheric perspective on some of those trees. Okay. And yes, it is time to enlarge this character, which is also not in enough perspective. Oh my god, that arm. I think that's a good size right there. And then I'm gonna just start cleaning up. So I'm gonna pretend I just picked this up to critique it because of, you know, resetting my brain. And just starting over with everything. Just, my Photoshop has not been good, so I'm just gonna save this. Son of a... Okay. Alright. Oh. Did we forget something? Jesus. And I'm zooming out. So the trees on the bottom are what? They're brighter or are they darker? What do you guys think? Alright, so these trees are towering overhead. They're creating that triangular look. Darker? What was my question? Did I say trees on the bottom or trees on the top? Darker, less light. Darker because it's closer. Okay, yeah, I guess, yeah. Okay, I didn't realize about what I asked. So, I'm just gonna color correct some of these trees. I like that barky look that you had, so I'm gonna try to keep some of it. Okay, so what do we do to the character in the foreground? So I'm going to saturate and illuminate. And I'm going to allow some of the background to really hit white at the tops. Just behind our little fella here. Our little fella here. 40. So this is the relief space in between the trees. I want it to reach white in some of those areas just because, so dodge tool on midtones. Just because that daytime color is being changed a bit. If you want it to be a darker scene, much darker, you'll get a chance to, you know, darken the scene as you need to. But the character in the foreground at the moment is not Illuminati, but Deluminati. Exactly. Give it a fade shadow and some light at the top. Higher up it goes, the more atmospheric perspective we'll get. Beautiful. How about the character? And some lighting at the top. How about the character? What does the character have? Are they lighter too, since they're in perspective? Such a tricky teacher. Call me CritiqueHour. I'm hoping we get subsurface scattering. Possibly in the ears. Characters in silhouette. Beautiful. So I'm gonna silhouette the character, and so I'm gonna use two modes. I'm going to duplicate the layer. Oopsie, lock the first one. Soft brush, get to darken mode on my brush setting, and pick an environment color, maybe that, and darken the character with it. Look at that. Ooh la la. We might not need to use color layer, but yeah. And then we have the layer underneath, so I'm going to try to do it two ways. I'm going to just drop the levels down on the sub layer because I need the black to come through when I put in a darken layer. Now my darks are darker than the darken layer, which is not a lighten layer, so I don't have to worry about the black's not coming through. So the black will come through. See that? and then I'm going to bring in that foggy fog. I'm going to use one of my skin brushes to do that. I think this is a good texture one. So that's why it was a bit tricky to mess around with the perspective or how dark we're going, because technically the top is supposed to be lighter than the bottom, but you see, because of the fog, you kind of sacrifice. Oh, oops, not that dark. And so in the end, you might just have both super light. I like to make sure I have something to establish the perspective, or at least frame underneath, even if I have to break the fog rule. And fog floats at the end of the day, so I don't want to damage my perspective too much, which is the atmospheric perspective I'm talking about. And then, so now the colors are matched, everything is matched. I'm going to merge that down and drop those values a bit more, those levels, and maybe the general darkness as well, and increase the size of the character. All right, so we have a really nice environment now, and I'm going to try to boost the background a bit so it's not too dark of an environment, but it's just enough that it feels like the thickets, you know, of a tree line, and I need to put the trees in the background as well. So the ears are having light shown right through them, so you can bring saturation back. And so subsurface is in two ways. It's in both the illumination, so the fact that the light comes through. I'm going to just do a lot. And it's in the saturation, and I can go back to the previous layer so that I could Let me saturate. It just depends on what the ears have in them. I'm going to change the color because I don't like that color. It's a terrible color. Kind of like alien. I'm just going to find that fleshy pink color that shines through ears in the daylight. And then take it down a couple steps when I go to my before layer before I did all this. So select, find when I think I started with dodge after, and just finding a mid-ground and then deleting where I feel like there are more shadows. Just the very tips, the very thinnest parts of the ear. Catching some of that light, but I still don't want to throw off my color wash. You know, that haze, that kind of mysterious haze of the environment. So I'm just gonna let some of that green come back, which should cancel a lot. I'm gonna get the blackest black and start correcting what's happening with the head, which should be a bit more invisible. Dark, I mean. And then over here, I need to just show the relief between each of these little feather patches. And just like you have here, little moments in between everything, you could also do the same thing in between all these. And just show us where we have some of those shining bits in between. And just like I did with the previous one, I'll go to the previous layer. I need to make sure that I still have a silhouette, so you always have to go to the previous layer and mess around. It'd be really cool if we increase the size of the ears. And you have some outlines here which are just killing me. And that's really what's flattening the piece. You need to have the courage to just get rid of some of those outlines and just let it be a value instead of this half in, half out business. Okay. I'm tempted to increase the size of the character even more, but we'll see as the critique progresses. Just getting rid of some of those lines and getting my brush. Might not go to the previous layer, might just manually do it. And then redarkening. Darken, get that kind of turquoisey dark value. Of the foreground. I love the red. I love what you're doing with the red. And I'm always checking my navigator, making sure that things are going in the direction I want. Okay, so I do want to go lighter with the trees. You'll actually get that hazy, foggy look, and the character will come out even more, which is really great. And then before I finish going into anything else, I'm going to just test out some glare before I put in the perspective, the distant trees. Just want to see like what to do with that glare. Do I just make it do something like that? Actually, I like that very much. So I guess it's doing something like that. Maybe another line slightly behind and maybe a little glow. behind the character's ears. Okay, so I want to fix that tree behind him because it's so important, or her. It's so important, this tree, because it's right beside the character. Why is that important? Why is it whatever's beside the character important? Does anyone know? So the character herself does not have to be in complete perspective as the trees. The trees are taller and they're straight lines, so they are susceptible to more perspective. You see how her perspective is very minimal. Tangents? Not so much tangents. What other reason being beside the character? You know, what other reason do we have for worrying? Because the background can break the readable silhouette of the character? No, we've already fixed that. We've allowed some relief to come through. What else? Yes, focal point. Excellent. That's it. That's the answer I wanted. I'm just cleaning up around here. The before and after is going to be bonkers because I rarely do critique hours like this where I've completely changed everything. I kind of want to show how the characters like. But yeah, I know I changed a lot of what the character was doing in the initial design by the artist, but I do really want to push this home. So, and this ear in the back should be a little bit longer and more that way, so behind the character and tilted away in this perspective, not beside the head. Filter, liquify. It's just, you've got such beautiful little texture here. He did such an amazing job with that texture, but I don't want to mess it up. So I do want, like I am tempted to deleted those areas. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm just trying to get some more texture to come out, and I think I'm gonna have to add. Because we're adding more detail to the sides. Bigger towards the bottom because those are the rules. This one gets those. Okay, and then we will add the other trees, correct some this and that. Don't even ask me to do the hands, because do not mess with that. That's not my area of expertise. I've never ever boasted that I'm a hand specialist. I don't like what's happening with this little area. I'm gonna round off those little thingies here because it's not really matching the character's build. And there's another thing I want to do, and it's kind of cray-cray, but let me show it to you. It's basically this. I'm joking. It's basically some more shadowing. Because the character feels very mysterious this way. So I'll see how much I can get away with. Oops. I know for sure the ears cannot be eclipsed anymore. And that red in the dress I don't want to be gone. I might take away some of that green and shift it over into blue. Yeah, that's fine. And I'm just gonna keep some of it. Okay. So next thing is just enriching the foliage on the bottom. So like, you know, whatever you could come up with does not matter. So lately I have been, and they can be like big leaves, they don't have to be these super pretty things, you know, they don't have to be like the best thing you've ever drawn, basically is what I'm trying to say, like freaking failing at it. And I'm going to do a couple of them. The character's kind of peeking through the foliage. I love me some foliage. Alright, and then blackest black for the foreground. But do not fret, young one, because I will be bringing in a green. And the green I'll borrow from something nearby, something very blue-greeny. And that's just going to be at the very tips, the very highest part of the leaf over here. As the sunlight's coming through. So I'm going to grab the yellow. That's yellow for the sunlight. Allow it to come through, shine through a little. I'm Queen Elizabeth and I'm hosting CritiqueHour today. Subsurface them leaves, that's right. Y'all know. Alright. So Queen Elizabeth is now Scotsman. Okay, and now we're gonna blur those babies because they're in the foreground. You can tell I'm in a lot of pain. Anybody who knows me can tell I'm in pain when I start just doing these things. Oh god, now I'm in liquefy. Okay, so back, focus, get yourself to the finish line, Gaussian blur. Alright, so stuff in the foreground gets blurred because of the camera focus. And we've got another set right here. What the hell am I doing? And I'm going to do the same thing, letting some of that sunshine through. But, oh, we've got something casting shadows here, so we could just go ahead and cast a shadow and do the little subsurface thing over here. Okay? So it's so much fun. You can't fail at it as long as you remember your little doohickeys here, your little subsurface, your cast shadows, what's catching light. You know, it's just having fun. Green covers don't sell. I wonder why that is. Green covers? You mean like book covers? Probably Disney. Blame Disney, because green was associated with villains for so long. People don't feel good when they see it because as in their childhood they were programmed to absolutely detest any character that looked in that eerie green. But things change, and millennials and Gen Z and all that other shit. We just don't give a crap anymore about anybody. So we made up our own rules. By all means, have more green. And so I'm not sure about this little one here. I thought it could be nice and in the foreground, but it's actually in the way. So I'm gonna tuck it away. Probably should have brought that other one. See, now it's just a nasty little tangent. Alright. Now it's a nasty little secondary tangent. That's good, I guess. You can see what I mean by darkening the character a little bit more. Just a touchy-wutchy more. Like, it's not a lot, but just a bit. Merge down. Burn. Just because they're kind of eclipsing on this side. Now the trees. So I'm just going to select a batch. Copy, paste. Grab them. Take them over behind the one behind it. And try to patch things up a bit. just want to populate the trees without, oh damn it, without overworking myself, basically. You see how the lazier you are, the less reward you have. There's a fine line between lazy and efficiency, and it's collapsed very quickly. Well, you know what? I'm going to darken the stuff right at the bottom and then see about that fog later on, because I still want it to feel like the bottom of the forest is populated with a bit more and still maintain some of that atmospheric perspective. And then I'll put just a touch of fog behind her. So I'm just going to get my pencil brush and not be a lazy little... This might be the last critique hour I do before my surgery, so I'm just trying to take my time with it. And then I will say farewell. Farewell, my children. So I'm just throwing in. One of these days I'm gonna die and y'all gonna wish you'd subscribed. Right, so I'm just doing that just to give the trees this less stringy look. Wish I had a less forgiving brush available. Maybe this one actually. I do. It's all the YouTubers stealing your content. Oh, they can go ahead. Everybody knows who did it. Actually, don't. Assholes. Don't steal my content, please. Thanks. So in this perspective, we're getting all the twigs, you know, shooting out the sides because we can see it, but we will still have a couple that, remember, thin out your brush as you get higher. So I'm not sure why the ground is so lush, but the trees are so screwed. I'm not sure why. Don't ask me. I'm just over here building a scene for y'all. Anyway, I'll figure that out in a second. So we got the leaves. Maybe it's just birch trees. Who knows? Whatever. Whatevs. And then these little guys might make sense if there was just a touch more behind her as well. Just, you know, populating the scene with a bit more. Just so the ground feels a little bit more clustered. And those all get a little bit lighter. And then these are like medium lightness, and these are the darkest here, which I will shift to be a little lower. Almost done, promise. Okay, so a ton of changes, but they're all for the sake of this character who is now actually feels like they're a part of this super. You could afford to put more, putting some light right behind them, like a little spotlight. But yeah, you could put more trees in the back. Let me see if I can sneak some in. But yeah, it's all about making the character feel like they are enclosed in this forest. And you do that by making it seem like there are things in this forest that are higher than them. And that is done by perspective. Oops, not dissolve normal. What the heck is even dissolve as a layer mode? Who on this earth uses dissolve layer mode? Like, who does that? Who actually does? I'm just curious. And then I'm gonna blur the background as well. So blur, Gaussian blur those trees, which should also help establish a bit more perspective as well. But I'm gonna copy this layer and go back to before I did that and unblur the lower part of the trees, just because it's a distance blur and not necessarily a blur that I want to apply just for background only, because the background is multi-layered, meaning it's a 3-point perspective. It's distant and far away and perspective and close up and bigger. So I don't want to put a universal blur, because there's no universality to anything about the background at the moment, other than the fact that it's trees. All right, and about that fog, I'm just gonna put a touch down here. And I want to do some other things, like maybe I could duplicate this, shrink it, and just let that background here be a little less gross. And then I'm going to put some like wispy feathers around this character. I would like to just cluster the bottom a little bit more here as well. Okay, so it feels a little bit more like we are looking from the grass up at the character. So now with the character, there are some things that are just not pretty. So I'm gonna just try to clean it up. Okay. Stupid ass Photoshop. God, so stupid. So stupid. Ah! Okay. So I'm gonna clean this up just to start me off. But I'm going to go back and kind of emphasize some of these little guys. Oop. So I should probably be zoomed out for this big a change. But yeah, I should be zoomed out. If you zoom out, lasso is easier to use as well. So luckily they're both the same thing. I like this. I do not like that, because it feels like it's missing the extra part. Okay. And I will thin this out. And just close up shop. So turn on the glare. I'm going to put a level of fog between the character and the grass, just so they feel like the fog really is lingering down here a little bit. And then you can put some like particles. It's not really insect. It's more like a pollen that's floating around. and trying to see what else I could throw in for the character's detail. Just some more stuff like that. Get the blur tool. And try to populate this side as well. If you're wondering why I do those so quickly, it's sometimes when I don't know what to draw, I sit there and draw leaves. It's like my go-to therapy. Okay, and then I could probably get rid of that since it is not really helping. And just make some of these a little bit more pronounced. Alright, and then just continuing to level blur, not because blur is needed, but because lasso it's got a really sharp edge to it. And then it feels like this little area could be a bit darker because the ears are right behind, so I want to make sure the perspective there is intact. And then there's the character's eyes, which I love to mess around with just because, you know, it's a bit more magic for us to play with. I like the pale eye, but you could do something a little more magical to bring in a different color. Okay, so maybe actually, now that I see that, I am going to do something crazy, which is just flatten the whole image because I am near the end and I'm done catering to my fears. So deselect, filter, liquefy, and I'm going to just increase the size of the eyes so that they seem a little bit more alert. Because, you know, that's it. Her ears are out. I could use the bloat tool. Whoops. Because once you've got the eyes, which are missing, and now we have this whole stage for the focal point, it should actually be really nice to see what happens when we add some detail to the eyes. She looks so cute and curious, but also kind of like comfortable in the thing. So it's not, so I guess it moved away from a character being scary to a character just being, actually I think I lost a layer. Not 100% sure. It's okay. I'll just bring these back a little. Oh man. All right. I like the squinty eyes too, to be honest. Oh, she did look pretty. Uh-oh. Stupid idiot. Now I don't have a choice. Alright. I have to go back and redo the eyes. She looks just a bit high. So flatten. Alright. Looks a bit sleepy. So we could at least open this one up. So we're, you know, halfway in between. Oh, I probably should have preserved my lasso because I really want to make her bigger, and I want to show you how nice she looks when, you know, you have different scales. So let me go backward. All right, and then I'll go to the face and paste the face back so that we can see her when she's a bit bigger than this. All right, I'm sorry, but I really want to show. Down. All right. See how like it looks when she's a bit bigger, and when the background is just, oopsie, background is just a bit lighter. So we're really pushing all of these elements to see how far we can take them. And I'm gonna do something crazy, which is kind of tilt her perspective as well. It's just a little trick, but it's just enough to boost the feeling like we're looking down at the character. We're looking up at the character, sorry. Just a small little trick. And that glare can be moved up a bit too. Okay, so you can also shrink the character to make it feel like the environment is so much bigger than them. So you see the little tricks you have? We can shrink her to be this size, and it just feels like everything is so much bigger than her. Maybe darken the background a bit more to make it feel like a dark environment. You have a lot of stuff at your disposal, so see how now it feels like a dominating environment. Whereas before it felt like she's a part of her environment, and then the before was just kind of a medium. The before, so you've got like 3 different versions of the same story. But of course the story changes because we're not just yeah. I think there was some fog in front of her, which I'd like to exaggerate. Anyway, that's it for today. What do you guys think about all these changes before I show you the before and after? You can make the eyes, oopsie, the eyes are not aligned. You can make the eyes look that way. Because, you know, her head is pointing this way and her eyes are looking this way. It fills the room up instead of the eyes looking this way and the head facing this way. So you can see how much more boring it is when the eyes are facing that way. Because she's already looking in that direction. So I'm going to flatten the whole thing again and just mess with saturation a bit. No, I would not keep this, but I'm seeing how much I can saturate in the foreground while the background remains undersaturated. So this was at 0 where we are now, and this is at 22. So 0 is more for like an adult story, you know, for young adults or something like that. Like it's not a kids show which is full saturation. It's something more like DC over dark scenes. And so this could be a little bit more saturated if you felt like it, or you could just saturate the character if it's a children's story but it is a deliberately dark area. Desaturate the environment but saturate the characters a touch more then. So we get to keep saturation for the characters. You can bring in more. You can tell I'm having fun because I'm just not letting this end. You can bring in more of this glare right at the top just to show we're looking right at the sun that's blocking our view, and then a little bit more shadow hugging the edges of the canvas to frame things in a bit, just like that. So before and after, very big, so don't expect anything comparative because we've changed the environment completely. So before, everything's level, everything's boring, everything's at the same height, everything's head level with me, and it's not enough because it's extremely boring. And it felt like a different type of story as well. And then after the characters being seen from a lower perspective, I really wish we had a bit more greenery just over here. You know, just some more green. Just like that. Because it feels very empty. Filter, blur, just so it's at level with everything else. Yeah. Flatten. I think the changes are incredible. I'm going to yell at my friends to check out your channel. It's a library here. Thank you. It's an ancient library. Really great changes. Nice to see just how far this piece can really go with all these lessons, including silhouette, light environment, color environment, adding environment elements, perspectives. Perspective is the most important change today, because how did it change the story? Can anybody reiterate that for me? I think it's annoying, Istebrak, this is a question, Istebrak, would you generally say it's better to work on a flattened image rather than cycling through many layers? The sacred text. It is very annoying to cycle through many layers. I try to avoid that whenever possible. You saw how much difficulty I was having just managing them all. It's getting really annoying. I see them as placeholders, as things that I could like just use temporarily, but I would not say that it's going to be a permanent part of how I interact with the canvas. Oops. So this is what I meant by those little particles that are just floating, catching the light. I'm just being super random, shrinking my brush as I stipple. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Oops, I did not do it in a separate layer. God damn it, son of a... Anyway, you guys can see what I was doing. I was going to put a little bit more and then just let... No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to just do it for you. New layer. It's okay, I only need a couple, and then I'll copy paste that. And push that down. And then copy paste again. And really lighten those. Strengthen those because they're right in the rays. And then for this layer mode, I think you can do like a... Alright, you guys see what I'm saying, right? Because I'll just be here all day doing this shit. But it's a really nice way to fill the atmosphere with a little bit more. You could add some insects if you like, if that's what it is. If it's a vibrant area, you know, butterflies or whatever, or in an area that's healthy, whereas these trees don't have a lot of leaves in them. If you're curious about how to add leaves, you just fill the trees up with large form study shapes. And if you are going to add trees, it means it's a living area. So yes, add the insects and the bees and the butterflies and the a little bit more color range to the eyes and stuff like that. But it seems like it's a creature that wishes the land was what it used to be. You know, it's not a creature that seems very happy. Kind of the last of its kind type of deal. And then definitely doing something else with the hand. So the hands are kind of like involved in something. I'm just going to draw a mitten. Don't ask me to do a hand. Maybe the mittens are holding something over here. Some leaves, you know, or some twigs or some pretty flowers, something like that. So yes, the mittens. So join us over at Reddit to submit your work. Thank you. Wow, just stumbled on this channel. I'm just learning digital art this semester in college, so I'm sure this channel and these live critiques will be very valuable to me moving forward. Thank you so much. Just quit art school and study Istebrak. I think using many layers are also causes the banding issue. Thank you everyone for coming today. I hope you guys learned something. I've been trying to push these paintings more and more each time, so it's a bigger impact and a bigger educational experience. The margin for, you know, to expose you to the benefit of the fundamental is increased significantly the more we push a painting. I know these classes get really long, But I hope that it is beneficial. I will see you guys hopefully soon. If not, there's quite a bit of time before I see you guys next time, possibly up to 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, including next. Thank you everyone for coming. If you learned something today and you want to give back to the community, you can join me on Patreon and join even just as $1 patron a month. If everyone joined, I wouldn't need to call on any higher tiers or create higher tiers. To submit your work for Critique Hour, go to the Reddit community here, so istebrak.com, Reddit icon up in the top right, and upload your work. The next challenge will be submitted maybe in my downtime, post-recovery or pre-surgery. I will upload and write out the next challenge, but it is an alien environment garden type of high foliage scene, but it's an alien environment. That's the key. So different types of flowers than you're used to seeing, or find references for flowers that just straight seem like they just were pulled out of an alien planet but grow here on Earth. There might be an additional character involved. I'm not 100% sure. But talking about filling a scene with foliage and texture seems to be something a lot of you are having issues with, because you're just not sure how to represent the texture without overdoing it and drawing every single individual leaf or using a texture brush. So it should be interesting talking about that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next class. Bye.